It is now a little after 1. We're going to begin our second day of budget hearings. This is April the 16th, 2013. And Ms. Phyllis, I'll let you start us off again today.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start out with where we're at right now in the general fund. And in your package on page 3, you will see that right now we're want to start off with the general fund. Want to take you to page 3 to show you where we're at right now as far as surplus or deficit for the general fund. And if you will look at the bottom of page 3, you will see that as of right now, we are at a $30,375 surplus. We made some changes from our last budget meeting. The police made some changes, which we will discuss in a few minutes. We made the adjustments that were necessary from our last meeting. I think one of them was in regards to the transfer to what did I leave out, Mayor? Old Timers Festival?
Old Timers.
Yeah, I left off
Yes.
Old Timers Festival last time. And we've made a couple changes, like I said, in the police department. We have taken out the lease vehicle program out of our capital plan, and you have documentation in front of you that shows the capital plan as it is with those changes. Want to go straight into the first department, which is the police department, and Chief Walker is here with us today. We will start off. I'll try to get this up on the screen here. I'll start off with the wages and benefits. We have input the wages and benefits based on the rate study. You have the documentation in front of you there that supports, the breakdown of the police department and the wages and benefits. I will move on down past that section to, of course, the clothing taxable fringe allowance did not change. Going on down to training, we did increase training by 5,000.
Although I offered to cut if need be.
We left we decreased postage to $1,000 from the previous year of $2,000. We decreased printing to $3,000. That's a $1,000 decrease. On subscriptions, we decreased that by $1,750. Membership registration fees, we left the same. Public safety awareness, we put in $2,100 for that. If there's a discussion about that.
The reason for that is we have no place to actually do handouts for children. When we do bike safety, when we do our safe routes to school safety, even though some of that may come back from grant money, we have no place actually to put that where it's talking about the public awareness things that we need to produce and print, coloring books for Old Timers Festival at the booth. We're doing a lot of things now through Cherie with the children to do internet safety, stranger danger, those things. And we don't have a place to put that. So that's the reason we moved that around and showed that there. It shows us an increase, but that's really not an increase. We just moved some money
I
around.
like to see it. on there too.
Yeah.
Exactly where it's going.
Yeah,
I like
that's the
that.
reason we did that.
Electricity, we increased just a little bit, water a little bit, we decreased the gas. This is our natural gas for heating. Other professional services, we have the e-Civis annual maintenance. That's our grant writing program. Repair and maintenance, we increased that by $2,500. That's to take care of Waste Industries, Thompson Machinery, Archronics, any other type of maintenance services there. We increased the maintenance on the motor vehicle by $2,000 to $17,000. Repair and maintenance building, we increased that by $5,000. That's mainly to cover our heat and air units and lows and the exterminating.
And we've got a heating and air unit at the CID building that's 10 years old. It's a 10-ton, and it's going to have to be replaced. So that's an example of some of the reasoning behind that.
We left travel the same at $10,000. We increased meals and entertainment associated with travel to $2,000 from $1,000. Collection fees.
Can I interject there? That is associated with our training, where we have to send someone out of town because it's training we can't get close by where we can drive to and from. If we have to send them out, then that's covered in those two line items there.
Collection fees, this is a fees associated with any outside services we're using as a collection agency. I know the chief has had discussion with me about this, whether this is a proper place to place this. It could go, I guess, in another department. This is just kind of where it's been.
Where this is budgeted for, actually, I believe, is where there's a collection agency that collects fines or fees. In my opinion, the police department doesn't need to have anything to do with collecting fines and fees. That should be totally separated, segregated. We don't issue citations to make money. That's not our end of it. That's not our side of it. We do it to get people to comply with the law and educate them, if it takes that to educate them, and to make sure that we try to keep the highways and streets as safely as we can. That, in my opinion, should go somewhere to where it's attached to the court clerk's office, which I believe is under the recorder's
City recorder
office.
We really just don't have we don't have a department specific for this. It's just always been in place. I don't have a problem moving it if anybody wants it moved or leave it there.
I just
whatever.
don't want any impression anywhere that we're doing anything to make money. That's not our purpose. We're here to keep the community safe, the citizens safe, not to collect money.
Should we add that to the court clerks?
Yeah, I don't have a problem moving it to the recorder budget. I mean, that's where the court clerk's fees and you know, that's where everything goes for that.
Okay.
So I don't have
We
a
can
problem.
just do that to Don.
Okay, that'd be fine. I can do that. Small items of equipment, the chief reduced that budget from 20 to 15,000. Operating supplies, he reduced that budget $2,500 to $32,500 from $35,000 previous year. Chemical laboratory, he reduced that by $2,000. Food, he increased that by $250. Household janitorial supplies, he reduced that by $500. Uniforms and clothing, he reduced that by $5,000. Firearm supplies, he reduced that one by $3,000. Fuel, we kept the same at $200,000. Metro contract, we increased to $90,000 to cover to cover the current radios.
And one of the things about that is every single radio we have in the city, no matter who it's assigned to, whether it's box, rescue, fire, whomever, actually comes out of the budget that's shown as police department. So that's the reason we added some additional radios. We added personnel, et cetera. And then with some of the P25 changeover, we've got additional expenditures there. with those things and building the templates, et cetera. So that's the reason that increase was needed, because Phyllis is getting bills that we hadn't gotten before. But all of that comes out of the police department budget.
I did want to mention, back in talking about wages and staffing, the chief only added one additional staff person this year. I forgot to mention that.
And we were able as well, we've done some changing around with reclassifying positions to lower paid positions. For example, we used a lieutenant position and reclassified it to a detective so that we didn't have to add a detective. We used one that, and we cut back, we've got 3 lieutenant positions now in the department rather than 6 as we had 2 years ago.
How many positions need to be filled?
How many need to be filled?
I mean, how many
Vacant.
positions?
Vacant.
Vacant.
If you'll look at your sheet on the staffing,
And that's a fluid sheet because we just did 2 patrol officers to detective last week, but they won't actually start and be paid until the 11th of June is when they start being paid. So we should have right now 4.
on the second page, it's actually labeled page 7, you'll see the vacancies listed there. I don't think there's any vacancies on the first page. They're all on the second page.
Right now, we have 1 vacant.
5, so 2 going will still be vacant, correct?
Right now, we have 1 vacant lieutenant, 1 vacant sergeant, because we cut back on our sergeants too. We reclassified them and used them in other ways. We actually have a lieutenant and a sergeant for each shift now versus a lieutenant and 2 sergeants. We moved things around, streamlined, reallocated in an effort to try to cut back on the additional positions that we needed. We're using people in multiple ways now.
Now, there's 5 that is vacant. The 6th one is the new.
It's on the very bottom of
Right.
that list.
Very
Yeah,
bottom, and
that's
that's for the crime intelligence analyst that we're gonna need to crunch data on a regular daily basis and dig deep into the data to give us the intelligence information, where things are happening, why, et cetera.
But I just want to make it clear that those 5 positions are not new.
No, they're not
No.
new.
That's what we want to stress.
They're not new.
We're strictly filling the positions that are vacant.
Right, I cut back, we cut last year back, and we're cutting back again this year. I can do with what we have except for that one, and that's a position that, once CAD and RMS is up and running full-blown, we're gonna have to have somebody on a
Well, we
regular
had
basis.
discussed that when we were discussing putting the new caddy.
Yes, we did.
Not only this retreat, but last retreat as well.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Okay, the next line item is machine equipment rental. That's no change to that line item. Reduced sex offender expense by $200. Rutherford County Dispatch, we anticipate spending $12,000. That was a 100% grant from Rutherford County for any training related to dispatch. We anticipate spending the same on the Christmas charity that the police department manages every year, and getting down into capital items for the police department, the chief has asked for 1 motorcycle, and then we have, he's asked for some additional radios.
5 portable radios because we have no spares. And we're trying to build our reserve officer program, and we don't have any to assign to reserve officers. If we get that going, we're gonna have to have some radios.
We'll have to get 3 more too for the fire, so we're gonna have to have radios.
Yeah, we will, and that comes out of our budget, so.
And he's also requested $37,500 for SWAT PP&E.
That's in another, if you
Did
look,
move it?
yeah, it's drug fund.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
If you look at the worksheet, can I go ahead and go to that, Phyllis?
Yes.
Okay, and you'll see where these improvement items are being funded from. They're not general fund budgeted. They're coming from other expenditure accounts. If you look at the worksheet for Fund 123, which is the drug fund, which comes from not only federal asset forfeiture dollars, also state forfeiture dollars, and drug fines, FINES. And within that budget for this year, and I'll let Phyllis go through if you want to, or you want me to go through it?
Go ahead.
I bumped up the employee education and
Did
training by
everybody find
1,000.
it? It's page 20 is the
sorry.
revenues for drug fund. Page 21 is the expenditures.
I bumped the education and training by 1,000 there. That gives us training ability outside general fund in the event we have issues down the road and we have some training that we desperately need. We're covered there, and it's not general fund dollars. It's coming from that. We left the cell phones the same. We bumped the travel there to go with the training to 1,500. Small items of equipment, we get in a situation to where we have to buy some additional vests. We get reimbursed half the cost of them, but we can take some of those out of the drug fund. The operating supplies, I bumped that up because that covers us there for operating supplies in the event we have to do some things there. SWAT is in dire need of some upgrade in their personal protective equipment. Headsets for radios, I think I mentioned that before when we were meeting in January. On New Year's Day, when we went to Laverne Lake and did an active shooter, a live, active, real-time situation there, a fire alarm went off and they couldn't hear each other. If that occurred in a real-life situation, it'd be a problem. When you've got SWAT officers trying to enter a facility where you have an active shooter, especially at a school, you've got problems if they can't hear each other and communicate with each other except by hands or actually seeing them. So that's one, plus the SWAT vest, upgrading to today's technology when it comes to the vest and the capabilities, and then some other equipment too there. Firearm supply, most of the firearm stuff has come out of, but we need to do some upgrade with firearms for SWAT. That's 2 sniper rifles because they're old and are fairly worn, and they don't meet the standards of today's world. The $1,000 for the nonprofit that's there is an estimated 1% down the road of our drug fund, which would actually be given to the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police Foundation, which provides training for those of us who are members of TACP. They have to bring people in to do training for us that helps account for our annual in-service training, and as a result, they have to have revenue stream there. So there were several agencies that do contribute out of their drug fund, which is permissible under the law for training, to that organization to help provide our training. And that's the reason I had asked for that. The undercover operations, we feel like that right now should be sufficient for us. That's the reason we reduced it. DARE, we're doing DARE in 4 schools now. Every single school we have. We needed to bump it because there are things we need there, not only workbooks, handouts, but we need to reward them in some form or fashion. So this is actually obligated, dedicated just simply to the DARE program in and of itself. And then we haven't had a K-9 program since before, well, Cash was getting ready to retire. So since before I got here, we haven't had a real active, aggressive K-9 program. Conrad had Cash, and as you well know, Cash worked, and finally got to go chase goats and little boys and daddy. And Cash is enjoying his retirement, but we need to put that program back in place. And this $20,000 out of the drug fund, not general fund, will pay for itself multiple times. And if you got any questions about that and what needs to happen, Conrad's our most experienced anywhere around, one of the best canine handlers I've ever met. And I'm sure he could ask questions if you have them.
Again, we're gonna reiterate, that's coming out of the drug fund.
Yeah, that's not general fund dollars. That's
That's-
dedicated.
Just want to go to, one of your new hires coming out of the drug fund, is that what you're saying?
One of the new hires, no.
No.
Okay. What did the first thing you said was come out of the drug fund?
The first thing I said,
Was coming out of the drug fund?
the employee education and training.
Okay, employee education.
No, we're not doing any wages out of the drug
I
fund.
knew I meant, I heard employee education.
And we have, I will tell you this much, Officer Matt Moore's been assigned to DEA task force for a little over 6 weeks now. I think this is about his 7th week. I got a phone call Thursday or Friday of last week from Mike Kress, who is a resident agent in charge here in the Middle District of Tennessee. We have a check that will be coming fairly soon from one case he was involved in. It's a very well-known case here in Rutherford County that occurred at the airport, and you can read between the lines there, but we'll have about $15,000 coming to us from that one case as a result of Matt being assigned there. He's doing a good job. Mike really bragged on him. And they're in the middle of some more cases that initiated with Laverne PD and other areas of the state, so we see some more things coming from that down the road too. So I believe it's going to be very beneficial and worthwhile for us to have him there, not only from the communications we have with DEA and the capabilities we have in getting assistance, but also from the standpoint of that's a revenue source as well. You want to do impact fee? If you'll look, and I don't know what page it is, the police impact fee.
That is on page 29.
There are things that we asked for last year that we didn't get to do, and we had some things budgeted last year that we didn't get to do because of the contract issue. And I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. We had the fencing to do the storage lot back here beside the building. We had the problem after the bid was let. The company got the bid, never would show. Therefore, that money carried over. It wasn't expended at the end of FY12, and it wasn't there this year for us to do the fencing, and we desperately need to do that so we can try to get those vehicles from the senior center and get them down here where they should be to begin with. But we're maxed out. You can see all the cars we've got outside over there, parked in the grass and everywhere else. But this provides $20,000 to redo the fencing over there, expand it, and do it the way it should be done and supposed to be done, which would come from the police impact fee, which is a dedicated fund that has to be used only for facilities, those things, facilities and equipment. And all three things that I'm asking for are to do things with a facility. I talked in my very first budget discussion with you about the problems with the evidence room, the security there, the OSHA issues we have. We don't really know how much. This is more a guesstimate than an estimate of about 20. It may or may not be. We have to have positive pressure ventilation to the exterior of the building. We have to have a self-contained HVAC unit. We have to have a controlled environment in there because of decaying marijuana, et cetera, which produces asparagus mold, which is highly toxic and can be fatal to some people. Depends on whether we're one of those or not as to whether it'll kill us if we contact that mold. We also have situations there where Christine is having to retrieve evidence, maybe utilizing chemical vapors. We're going to have a positive pressure exterior ventilation for that. Plus, we have some security issues in and of itself there. With the room, it's not, it's an interior room, but it's on an exterior wall. There needs to be some things done there, plus some things on the interior side too. So we estimated last year's budget request for 20, and we weren't able to do that, but I'm asking that that be done this year and be done out of the police impact fee. And the other thing is, last year I discussed the issues we have in dispatch, because you got folks that sit there for long periods of time, don't get up and move, and we do not have ergonomic equipment in there for dispatchers to be able to sit there for long periods of time. It's not to today's standards for the 911 situation, and we asked to do that last year. I'm estimating, I think it was 32 something I asked for last year, and this is about a 10% increase, or a little bit less than 10%, because I believe it's probably increased in cost this year. But we're asking for that to come from that dedicated fund as well. So the overwhelming majority of the improvements we've asked for in the police department budget are coming from those two dedicated funds.
Any questions?
Sorry, Phyllis.
Remember any questions?
Huh?
We have one more department for the chief, is the grants, which there's no activity.
We will be requesting Governor's Highway Safety Office grants again, and coming in October, if the sequestration doesn't get to us, et cetera. We're probably looking at about the same amount we had this year, about $41,000, although we're adding an additional item in instead of just the alcohol saturation patrol grant. We're going to look at doing some targeting of some teen driver violations, time of day, numbers of people in the vehicle they're restricted with a graduated driver license, distracted driving. I like to call it that, other than just texting and driving, because it's any distraction. In an effort to try to protect our kids in the community or coming through the community, based solely upon the restrictions that are there already in place with graduated driving, because our teen driver crashes are increasing again statewide, as well as injuries and deaths. So we want to make sure we're doing our part for that and be there in places and times when those occur, like after ball games, and those times too. We've got the $128,000 that will come to us in the next fiscal year for reimbursement on the CAD software that's coming from 911. We have the Bureau of Justice Administration grant that's coming to us on reimbursing us half of the cost for our vests. And I'll tell you this much, right now we have 14 people that need vests today. We've got one male that's wearing a female vest. When we went back and started checking for expiration dates, we've got 13 that either are expired or we can't even see an expiration date. We have no clue when they were purchased, when they were issued, and several of those don't even fit because they're not vests that they were measured for. And with a vest, for it to properly protect you, it has to fit appropriately and correctly. And that's an issue. So we'll be getting that money back in as well. And then there's a potential for some more grant money coming to us from the State Office of Criminal Justice Programs down the road too. And we can, usually what we'll go after there are small items of equipment, software, things of that nature. So they're relatively small grants, usually what, Phyllis, 7 to 10,000 probably, but that would be money that would be added back in at the end of the year.
Now, the chief has discussed lots of potential grants. We didn't really budget for any of these because we don't know the exact dollar amounts and the timing. So as these happen during the year, we will probably do a budget amendment if necessary, because it's kind of hard to pinpoint dollars.
It is.
When are we looking at getting the vest?
Sir?
When are you looking to get the vest?
Felicia put a bid out, request for bid that hit, I believe, yesterday is when it actually went out. And it's the new Safariland Second Chance vest that actually has the hybrid lightweight plate in it that's actually rated to stop a 7.56 round. So if somebody's out there with
So-
a rifle
so-
and it hits, it's a 5x8 plate in addition to the vest itself. Plus it stops the rounds from the current high threat rounds we carry in our handguns as well. In the event someone gets the handgun from one of our officers, then they're protected from their own weapon. And many of ours are not right now. I
just
ran
don't
into
wanna-
the same problem at THP.
I don't want to have to drag that out because the vest is a whole lot cheaper than a funeral or a
It is.
hospital bill.
It is. And that's why we're trying to improve those. And then, of course, half of that cost will come back to us as well. So, and that's built into our equipment dollars in the regular budgeted side too. So what we expend there, we get half back. And the only other thing is, with the compensation study, it would increase the starting pay for our dispatchers and our patrol officers to about middle of the pack or so, of those that I used last year to compare to, where we were the lowest, and that'll put us about the middle of the pack, which makes us competitive, which helps alleviate the problem of us being a training ground for other agencies. We spend $2,500 and then plus more than that, send somebody to the academy and then have them stay here a year or so and go somewhere else where they can make $2 or $3, $4 an hour more. So that will help boost us again if you all have the dollars and the opportunity to do that.
What's the starting hourly pay now?
It's $15.28 for a patrol officer. It would go to $16.45, Phyllis, is that right? Is it $15.28?
I just remember our town hall meeting, Fred talking about, I think at that point it was $12 or $12.82, or it's pretty low.
That's for dispatcher. Now, $15.28 is a current starting officer hourly, and it'll go to $16.45. You raised it from $13.79, $13.78 year before last. Last year you raised it for the current year. And I'll be honest with you, they're out there working like crazy. We don't have our crime stats yet. Hopefully at the next, Bruce and I had talked about the other day, hopefully at the next workshop, we'll have the final numbers from TBI for last year, and I can put those in a packet and give you an idea where those are. But I believe you're going to see a continued improvement there, where some other cities have just shot through the roof with crime rate. And that does not come from what some do, and that's playing with the reports, because we report more now than we did before. There were some times that reports were not being done and crimes were not being reported correctly and accurately.
Well, I think we did really well. We asked you to
The
work
chief
on
really,
it
yeah.
to get your people their bring up the compensation study. It worked, and you did your job.
And the chief really worked hard at
Yes,
cutting his
he
budget.
did.
Cutting
Well-
his budget and a lot of other line items.
We, and Phyllis has been really good. Bless her heart, I sent her a thing as late as yesterday, and she had to go in and change, and she's got more than she can say grace over, but we have tried to work to try to control as much as we can. The one thing that's really kicking us probably more than any line item in today's world is overtime. When I went back earlier and I looked at 03, 04 versus 13, 14, one of the things that's kicking you all is the insurance, the medical insurance, because it's increased 113%, I think, in that 10-year period. The number of personnel have only increased about 12% total in the police department. But the cost in doing business in today's world is unreal. I can't remember now what it was, but we're at $200,000 now for fuel, so on. I think it was like 90-something in '03, '04, so
And they say it's just gonna go up
it
even
will.
more.
It will continue. Electricity is totally different from what it was then too. It's increased a few 100% as well, so. We appreciate what you do, and on behalf of the department, thank you for the support. They work hard. I'm proud of them, and they're out there doing all they can do with what we have, and we'll keep doing with what we got.
Well, we're proud of you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
And this is not budget, but if I don't tell you, I'll forget. The letter from Steve for the 911 board, it's
Yes.
time for us to redo that.
Yes, ma'am.
If you would mind, would you please stay on that
Yes, ma'am.
board? So whatever we
Will.
have to do, if I don't tell you now, I'll forget, so.
Okay.
Well, that's on my mind after. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
The next department is highways and streets.
If it's all right, may I be excused? I'm the shift commander today, so
Yes.
I need to turn my radio back on.
Where's Mr.
Page
Barlow?
10. In highways and streets, looking at staffing, Garland currently has 2 vacant positions that have not been filled. I think he wants to discuss some ideas he has on that.
Yes, I'd like to fill one of those with the street department, and I think in January I'd talk to you about maybe hiring somebody in fleet and bringing our oil changes and some of the minor stuff that takes 2 mechanics to do. I wouldn't want a full-fledged, mechanic. It'd be probably, the wages be a little more than a street laborer. But I'd have the 2 positions, but I would like to take one and fill for the streets. And one to, just basically for changing oil, doing, checking them over when they come in. I think we've had some problems with some of the valvoline down here, and some of the things not getting done, that we've called afterwards, but, it wasn't nothing major that caused any problems, but it's just something that didn't happen. But I would like to switch them.
So you have 2 vacant.
Got 2 vacancies now.
One vacant is at 32,
Yes.
and then one vacancy is at 27.
Yeah, I think we pay them, yeah.
So you want to move like the 32 to the fleet. We're not adding a person, we're just moving them.
Moving them, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then we'll have one just regular for streets.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so that one's going to fleet.
correct.
Alrighty.
Okay, going on down through his budget. Once we get past wages and benefits, want to move down to employee and education training. He has requested $750 in addition. Postage, he wants keeping that the same at $100. He's reduced printing and stationery to $50. Keeping membership registration fees the same. Utilities are the same with exception of reducing the gas from $1,500 to $500. Other professional services, he's requested $110. Repair and maintenance service, reducing that to $25,000 from $45,000. Repair and maintenance, building and grounds, he's keeping that the same at $1,000. And repair and maintenance building, keeping that the same at $1,000.
I'd like to say something on that real quick if I could. I don't know if you all know it, but when you get down here to the repair and maintenance of the building and the grounds, our salt barn that's about 25 years old is starting to bust open. We've got cracks probably 2 inches wide. We've got it shored up now with some barrier walls and gravel. I've not got all my bid quotes back in yet, but I had 2 companies come out just to fix and stabilize what we got. It was like $25,000. I talked with a company out of state, but it wasn't a metal roof it was going to put on it. It was going to be a fabric type on there that they've used. But we have to do the concrete working on, and you're probably looking at $60,000, $70,000 total. But I'm getting other prices, but I just hadn't got them all yet. But I just want you to know that sometime in the near future, we're gonna have to have a new salt barn built, or we're gonna have to build it or something. Okay, sorry.
And that, there's nothing in the budget for that.
Nothing in the budget for it, no. I just wanted to bring it up because when it got down to that, I knew that we'd been, I've talked with Bruce about it. And, we tried to keep it from, I think that thing's probably 25 years old, and I think the employees built it. So it's done what it was supposed to do. Okay.
We can also check into, see if that can be taken out of state street aid, because I know that salt supplies
Yes.
can come out of state street aid, so we may look and see if maybe in future we can make that change there. Going on down to office supplies and materials, keeping that budget the same at $2,000. Small items of equipment, he has reduced that by $1,000 to $1,000. Operating supplies, he's keeping that at $20,000, same as prior year. Household and janitorial supplies, he's reduced by $500. Uniform and clothing, keeping that the same at $5,000. Fuel, increasing that to $45,000. Machinery and equipment rental, reducing that to $850. And the only two capital items or semi-capital items are this, $7,000 to go toward the PO system and $30,000 for a truck.
That'll be,
Actually, work order system, not.
Yeah, work order.
I mean,
you said
I
PO.
said
It's
purchase
work
order.
order.
Work order, sorry.
The truck that, that she mentioned, the $30,000.
I've even got it on here as PO system.
Ma'am? No. The $30,000, being the general fund I'm going to have that equipped with a snow plow and a spreader, so it won't be just used to work out of. It'll be extra for the winter time to add to our other one that we got last year. But that way, it can be used for several different things. It's like now we use the snow truck from last year that we bought you can haul gravel, sand, anything you need to on that brush.
Any questions about streets? If not, we'll move on to fleet. Of course, we talked about the change here that I'll be making for adding additional person to this department. Not adding, but
Page
moving.
8. Page 8.
Getting past wages and benefits, going on down to other line item expenses, employee education and training, keeping that the same at $1,000. Did not rebudget for any kind of membership and registration fees, a savings of $200. Repair and maintenance service, reduced that budget by $500 to $2,000. Repair and maintenance building, keeping that budget the same at $500. And then we have the fleet expense for various departments, $2,000 for admin, $2,000 for codes, $1,000 for engineering, $2,000 for parks, $50,000 for police, and $25,000 for streets, $500 for hazmat, $1,000 for IT, $1,000 for seniors, $1,000 for legislative, and this is pretty much the same budget as prior year. $300 for supplies, office supplies, that's the same amount as he requested in the prior year. Small items of equipment, this is, he's increased that by $5,000, and that includes for some tools, $5,000 that he's requested for tools for the fleet department, for the mechanic, and reduce the operating supplies from $35,000 to $25,000. Did not request any budget for janitorial supplies, clothing. Oh, we missed. Do we not even need anything for fuel in there?
I thought we did.
Okay.
What
We'll need to,
was that last year?
2,500. We'll need to add some. What about clothing?
thought we left it to,
Looks like we skipped a couple lines here. We need to add back in, probably $250 for janitorial supplies, and we probably
Yes.
need to add back $500 for the
that,
clothing.
25.
And $2,500 for fuel. That just got left out or deleted somehow. And then we've got the work order system, again, that's being spread over several departments, I think 5 departments?
5 departments, it'd be water, sewer,
departments.
streets, fleet, and stormwater.
Yeah. So that gives a grand total budget for that department of $196,947. Prior year was 208, so that is a reduction to that. Even, well, we're going to add a person, or not add a person, but transfer a person from street, so that will change those numbers some. If you don't have any questions about that, we will move to State Street Aid. State Street Aid should
Page
be on
16.
16.
16 and 17. There we go. Just going over the revenues real quickly. The revenues for this department mainly comes from our motor fuel taxes, and we have seen a little bit of an increase over the past couple of years in that, so I have bumped that up to $850,000. Interest earnings would be about $800, so for total revenue is $850,800. His expenses are $1,013,000, so we're going to be utilizing about $162,000 from prior year reserves. And that would still leave us approximately a little over $1 million in the bank, even with those, even with it, taking money from the reserves. And if we go over to the expenses, for 13-14, most of the expenses here are our street lighting. We're going to keep that at about $250,000. We're running about that this year. Garland has requested the paving budget to be at $500,000 again this year to cover lots of the paving needs for the city. And then we have bank service charges of about $300. We have added $11,000 for the snow plow and spreader, and then we have some debt service payments that come out of this department for a total budget request of $1,013,000. 124.
Another good job.
We tried to cut where we could cut.
Yep. You want to announce anything?
No, I don't.
Not yet?
About Waldron Road, no.
Okay.
I'll let Kyle do it. No, they finished with all the paving on Waldron, but they're still out there today doing some of the thermoplastics, and I think LoJack's out there doing a little bit on the punch list. I don't know what they've got. I hadn't talked to them, but it is open now. And all the barrels, I guess, will be moved out pretty soon.
Awesome.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next department,
I know.
next department we'll be talking about is stormwater. If I can get it pulled up here. Of course, the bulk of our revenue cycle for stormwater comes from the fees that are billed out through our stormwater fees that are billed through water billing.
Page
And
24. She's jumping around on
I'm
us.
sorry.
I know.
It's, you know, it's just because last week we were in general fund, it was a straight shot all the way through. Now we've got all these different departments that and I'm trying to, you know, whoever's
You
up at the
skipped
podium may have departments in different funds, so it's kind of hard to.
That's all right.
I tried to number the pages this time, though, to help a little bit. The revenue stream, of course, like I said, comes from the stormwater fees that are billed out through the utility billing. We had $1,700 in interest income, budgeting about $690 for residential stormwater fees, approximately $390,000 for non-residential fees, $20,000 in late fees and penalties. That gives a total revenue of $1,000,001. Expenses are at the same amount, and we can go to the next page and we can go down through here and talk about the expenses. Starting with staffing, we did not add any staffing here. In this current year, we haven't added any. The allocations from the water billing, you'll notice, is down. That's because we have less people to allocate. We did reduce a staff of 1 in the water billing department, so that reduces that allocation. Going on down to employee education training, they've requested that budget to stay at $2,500. Fees to be at $2,000. Postage staying at $500. Printing and stationery to stay at $750. Subscriptions and license, $2,000. No change there. Membership and registration fees staying the same at $5,000. Public relations, which consists of Project WET, it's $10,000 a year. Advertising, $500. Electricity, approximately $4,000. Water, $100. Cell phones and telephones, keeping the budgets the same at $20,000. Engineering cost, $40,000. Other professional services, keeping that the same as prior year budget at $20,000. Repair and maintenance service, $20,000, no change over previous year. Repair and maintenance, vehicles, $10,000. Ditch and drainage repair, approximately $218,000. Repair and maintenance building, $10,000. Travel, $1,000. Meals and entertainment, $500. Street sweeper maintenance, $12,000. Office supplies and materials, $2,500. Small items of equipment, $5,000. And these have been, the ones I've just mentioned, have had no change over prior year. Operating supplies has been increased to $40,000. That's to cover Lowe's and Cytex and Ezra and Diamond Equipment.
It's basically all the drainage projects we do. We're buying pipe and materials, and instead of, that's one of the drainage repair, and I think it was line item 265, it went down and operating supplies went up. We just, that way it's in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Household and janitorial supplies, no change or increase in the budget there. Clothing and uniforms staying the same. Fuel staying the same at $20,000. Computer maintenance, which is our Microsoft licensing, keeping that the same. Our rent that we pay to Mark Pirtle for the lease of the rent of the little piece of land there is $2,400, no change. Machinery and equipment, keeping that budget the same at $10,000. Bank charge, $500. Building, which is the FEMA buyout, we rebudgeted $75,000 for that. Construction and maintenance machinery, $15,000. Transportation equipment, the next couple items are items that have been added and are on our, they're capital items. One of them is a new vehicle, and then we have the $7,000 for the not the work order system. I want to call it PO system. Sorry, it's a counting thing. And for a total budget of $1.1 million.
You've got in your budget 218,000 for ditch and drainage projects. Do you have a list of projects that you're looking at doing?
We don't have a list. I mean, it's one of those, if we, during the year, have a drainage project come up, that's the line item we would pull it from, because like, probably the last major one we did was Blue Valley, and that's, you know, it was a couple hundred, no, it wasn't the last one we did. Dick Buchanan Drainage Project would have been the last one, and it was a couple $100,000, and that's where it would come from if during the year we get a complaint in an area, and then we go out and look at it and realize it's something more than our crews can do, and we'd have to take it to the board and get it designed. Of course, we'd use the engineering services and stuff to get it designed, and then whatever the project cost would be would come out of that that amount there.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we reduced it down, because that's really what that's kind of for. And then the work we do has been coming out of operating supplies, and we've been going over on operating supply on that line item, because we've basically been doing pretty much any complaint we've been getting, we've been doing ourselves. But I expect before long there's going to be another project that'll come up that it's going to be bigger than what we can do, that we'll need to hire out.
Any other questions about stormwater? If not, while Kyle is up, we will go straight to capital project streets, which is page 27. We really don't have a lot to talk about this year as far as projects in the street, capital project streets department. The only thing that we have is the finishing up of Waldron Road, and that money has already been put in an LGIP fund and set aside for that.
Then Fergus and Cheney should be finishing up. We do have a little bit more to pay on. I believe it's Cheney, and we'll be waiting on reimbursements. Safe Routes to School got a pre-construction meeting next Tuesday. So hopefully we'll get that project started as soon as possible. That's the only thing that's going to be iffy is the timing of that project, because it's a real short project, but the closer we're getting to July, I'm afraid a pay app might get turned in after the 1st. But that is a 100% grant, so if we was to have to pay for some of the safe routes, unless we go over budget, if we was to have to pay for some of the safe routes, next year's budget, we would get reimbursement for all of it back. We just got to have it done by September. So that would be the only iffy thing that's kind of on here.
Any questions about capital project streets? If not, we'll move on to capital project parks.
I do have one question, excuse me.
Okay.
The famous Kentucky Fried Chicken.
We can add that a project for that. At this point, the road plans was designed by Weiser, and they did base the road plans on a traffic study. And whenever they did that, TDOT reviewed it, and everybody says that, well, they did the plans before the roundabout was complete. Now that's the reason why the counts was redone in 2008. Whenever the project actually got ready to be let out, they went back, or TDOT made them go back and get traffic counts again, so they could make sure the traffic study was right, so they could design that intersection properly. And going by the traffic counts, going by the alignment, everybody needs to think about the alignment too. It's not just the counts that you've got. You know, your shift through that intersection and everything, that's the way that, going by TDOT regulations and rules and going by the traffic study and everything all together, that's the striping that's out there today is what it's going to stay at. And one thing that should be adjusted is the signal timing, because that's one thing they probably got to go back on every intersection. They did that today. If they didn't do it today, then they've got an issue, because we will be talking to the state, because I was driving home, I think even last night, about 7 o'clock, and going down Waldron Road and International catch me every time. and it's, there's nobody coming either way, so.
That one there, yes.
Well, there's, it's what's basically all of them, because the way the signal's timed here at KFC is probably not exactly like it should be either. So that's something we can talk to the state about to make sure that the timing of the signal matches what they designed. And if it does, then we probably still have an issue, maybe, going by the complaints we're getting from the residents. And if we do, then we'll have to do another project, like me and Bruce had talked about. And that, it would be a fairly expensive project, because it wouldn't be just as simple as restriping, I don't think, because there's a reason why they striped it the way they did. And we'd probably have to go in and purchase right away from KFC and extend another lane over. So it's not going to be real cheap to do that project. And while we're doing it, we've always had complaints in the afternoon hours from residents coming from Nashville trying to make that left there. So if we was going to do a project, it would only make sense to go ahead and extend that left turn lane as far as we can. I know the bridge is going to constrict it, but that's, we need to probably extend it as far as we can. But looking at how much money we have in the budget this year, I don't really see a lot of room to put that in there. It's something that we could think about and look at this year to see if we still have the issue, and then make sure that if we do have a major issue, that we definitely get it in for the next budget.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that we, at the end of next year, we may have right around $220,000 in this fund. Okay. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the expenses for Waldron Road, whether they'll go over or under, or if there's any changes, or even if we're done.
Well, we still got some condemnations that's out there.
Still have right away issue.
That's still pending.
We really have no idea where that's going to come up. So that's the other reason why, like I say, on this intersection, we probably need to exhaust all the possibilities with the state as far as making sure that the signal is timed the way they felt like it should be designed and everything else before we spend too much money on it, because with not a lot of money already, and then the condemnations and stuff that we've still got to close out, we just don't have a lot of money to use towards this.
We get emails every day.
I mean, I'm not. I know they're backing up. I mean, I live in a different area, but I know there's an intersection that I drive up to that's in a different city that I was backed up, like this morning I was backed up, I guarantee you, is a mile, just to try to take a right.
Yeah.
So now granted, I was actually moving, but it still took, 5-10 minutes for me to make that ride. So, I mean, it's I wish it wasn't like it. It shouldn't be like that on like say a brand new, when you get done with a new road project, you would think that it would be just real smooth and easy, but I don't really know what happened on that area there. Like I say, I'm hoping the signal timing is what the issue is.
Phyllis, what kind of projects can we fund out of State Street Aid? Can we do something like that out of State Street Aid?
I don't think so. State Street Aid, we can do patching, any kind of road repair, but I'm not sure. It may be, Bruce, but I'd have to
We need
look
to check
into
on
it.
that, because we got over $1 million in that balance. If we needed to do something, it's possible we could do it out of there if we're allowed to. I'm not sure.
You may be right, because I think when we started Waldron Road, we did something out of State Street Aid at one time.
Well, I've got some bond issues in there too, so I mean, those bond issues I'm willing to bet were for some street construction.
Right. You're probably right then.
So that's a possibility as well. And also, out of State Street Aid, we're looking at paving the Jones Mill Road. So we're taking away from that $500,000 that Garland usually has to pave streets. A big chunk of that's going to go just for Jones Mill Road. So keep that in mind as well. We won't be able to pave as many streets this year because of it.
That's true.
Like I say, the complaints from the citizens is not going unnoticed. We're trying to keep track of them and also keep working. I know Garland's talked to them. I've talked to them several times to try to make it better. It's just it hadn't got better yet, so we're going to continue to work on it to try to fix it. And it may mean, like me and Bruce have talked about, it may mean another project that we have to bring in front of you to do this, because the state, once they got done with what the Walden Road plans were, that's all they were doing. So,
Yeah.
and that's what, and what's out there today would be what was on those plans.
I don't want to bring that up because we are getting a lot of emails,
I'm getting several.
phone calls,
Every day.
so let them know that it's just, we're not ignoring it.
Yeah,
And we're not, but this doesn't, we can't change things overnight.
right, and we had to wait for that project to get done and let them get done and get out of, not really out of the way, but let them get done and then let's see if it continues to be a problem. And if it does, then like I say, we're just going to have to do something else.
Okay.
However you want to do it, it's fine. We can do that.
Any more questions?
If not, we'll move on to capital projects parks.
Good job, Kyle.
We have two projects basically on this budget. One is the Lake Forest Park. We have page 28. We had budgeted to transfer $50,000 from the general fund to the capital projects parks budget for the Lake Forest Park. And then we still have Hurricane Creek. I want to explain a little bit here. I've re-budgeted the same numbers as prior year because we don't know how far into the project we're going to be at the end of this year or at the beginning of our next budget year. Out of the 387 that you see here on the city share, we have already transferred 130 of that. So in fiscal year 13-14, we will be transferring another 250, and that will be the city's portion of the project, and the rest of it will be funded by the state. There was no good way to re-budget that to try to figure out, about where we're going to be. So that's why you see the same numbers in 12-13 as you do 13-14. But the general fund has already funded 130 of that 387, and then the balance 250 we did as a transfer in on the general fund budget. And the only other expense in that would be the $600 for service charge or bank fees. We're wrapping up a lot of our projects and looking forward to some new ones maybe.
And on the Greenway project, just so everyone will know, we do have plans that are almost ready to take or send to the state. We're going to have a planning commission workshop tonight. We'll let planning commission look at it. Also, if anybody on this board wants to go look at them, they'll be in the conference room and stormwater building if you want to go in and just take a look. And we'll have a notebook to the side that if you want to make some comments, you can write them down, because I'm going to try to compile all the comments together and get those to Wiser before they submit to the state. And that will hopefully get us the notice to proceed with right-of-way. And by the time we get all that done, it's going to be back to the winter months again. So we're probably going to look at construction. We're hoping maybe to start construction February or March of 2014, or as early as possible. Let the contractor start on areas that doesn't stay as wet year-round. And then that way they've got all the summer months to work in the areas where they're going to have to do the boardwalks and the stuff down by the creek. So that's kind of the time frame we're looking at right now.
That's good. Any more questions?
If not, we'll move on to seniors. Yay.
Thank you, Kyle.
And Mayor, do you want to talk about our, before we get to the seniors, you want to talk about our sale this morning of the bonds?
Yes, that did take place this morning, and we got it at 3.05%. Yes. So that was
a good rate.
That was a good rate. Kind of nerve-wracking, made me nervous, but it went really, really well. So
We had
That-
about 6 bidders, or actually 5, because 2 of them were from the same company, so. And they were very close rates. We have our seniors. Um,
18.
Basically, we have the same revenue stream every year. We have grants from Rutherford County. We have some senior activity. We have a little bit of interest.
18, 19.
We have some contributions. And we have the GNRC grant, which is Greater
It's
National.
page 18.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
And if you'll remember, in general fund, we agreed to transfer 45,000 to the seniors this year instead of the 40 that we transferred last year. And even with those revenues, we're still going to be utilizing $10,820 out of our reserves. The seniors are just growing, and with that growth, of course, there's expense. I want to move over to the expenses and talk about that. Donna, you jump in anytime.
Okay.
We basically have the same expenses as prior year. I will just mention, highlight the ones that we did change. We changed postage up to $1,200. We increased that by $1,000. We reduced printing by $250. We reduced subscriptions by $100. We kept the utilities the same. We added the cell phones and telephones to $300. Repair and maintenance service is $3,000. Repair and maintenance building is $3,000. I got ahead of myself here. Office supplies we kept the same at $1,200. Small items of equipment we kept the same at $500. Operating supplies $1,500. Food $11,000. Janitorial supplies $800. And I keep hitting the wrong button. Fuel $5,000. Bank service charges about $350. Programs and music $5,000, and the senior flyer fund $500. That's a total of $129,700 for that budget. And I want to flip back over to the revenue page to show you. We've got $129,000 in revenues. That's including $10,000 that we're pulling from the prior year reserves. If we continue at this growth, at the end of next year, we're only going to have approximately $9,000 in the bank for the seniors.
One thing that has really hurt, when we were partnering with Bridgestone Firestone, they were excellent at doing a golf tournament for us. That would bring in anywhere from $11,000 to $13,000. Since I've been there, we only partnered with them 1 year, and then that partnership has dissolved. Friendly, but
I should say, no, the gentleman that was, he passed away? Or
the older gentleman did.
that started
yes.
it? And,
Yes, and then Mr. Shannon came in, but that's when they had the layoffs. And so they decided to take their golf tournaments and, of course, help out their workers that had been laid off. And we just have not built back up that relationship again. Daryl and I were hoping to do a golf tournament. Daryl Lane had done golf tournaments before. That just didn't happen. But I think if we could have 2 or 3 really big fundraisers that would get us in $11,000 to $13,000, that would at least help build us back up again. And we have many seniors that our activity money, we don't charge them to eat because they can't afford it. And we want to make sure that they are getting what they need. So unfortunately, our yard sale, which did come in with about $400, that's going to help out with putting it into the bank account. Our spaghetti lunches and things of that sort, anywhere from $400 to $500. But we need some really hard-hitting fundraisers.
Any other
that
questions?
that building.
Oh, that building is.
We're gonna have to look at doing something with it in the next couple of years. And, I've told them to please watch for grant money. I discussed with Donna, as you all know, we've been in talking a lot about weather and safe places. Well, according to Ricky, Tima and Rima and all those Emas, we really do not have a safe place, and liability-wise, we cannot open. When storms are coming and people want to, we legally now, we've talked to Evan, Bruce, we cannot be opening up like the multi-purpose, because we're asking for problems. So with that in mind, when Box and a lot of the others got to talking about what can we do, we've got to start looking to the future. We've got to start thinking. And we thought about grant money to build like a safe room, but do it at the senior citizens. Because a lot of them are from where? Back there in the seniors. So, you know, I've asked Monteith to continue to try to look for some type of grant money. Let the seniors also know that this safe room, it'll be their room, it'll be theirs, but in case of extreme emergencies or weather, then it could also be used for a safe shelter, which, like I said, again, is majority are the seniors that do a lot of the calling, wanting to go to a safe place. So we'll get on. I've asked Monteith, that is something we need to check back into, because there's some grant money there. I don't know if it's this year, if we've already missed it, but I did ask her to please look into that.
We're also going to have to extend one way or the other.
And what the mayor is talking about would help with that. There would be that extension of this room. It would be a very safe place, because it's very sad to say when we have bad weather, the biggest thing that we can tell the seniors, we'll flip tables and we'll get you behind the tables, because we do not really have any safe outer or inner rooms.
No, and it's all glass.
We have glass on the front. We can go into the restroom, but then that back wall also is an outer wall. But with the extra room built on, that would help with our room of expanding so that we can offer more programming. It will be a safe place, and I think it could be utilized really well.
And that's just some of our thinking, trying to think outside the box. So we don't know where that'll go, but we're certainly looking into that. See if we can help there.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Is that it? Seniors? Is that it? Everybody's quiet.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
And now, last but not least, we have our water and sewer, water treatment plant, our water sewer fund. I want to start off by talking about revenues. This is the year that we chose to.
Page 30.
This is the year that we chose to do the 6% and 9% rate increase. So I just want to give you that information up front. If you'll notice, we have our, of course, our rent from the Sprint and Tower Co. Those are pretty consistent. Going down to our metered water sales, the 6% will add approximately $250,000 to our revenue base there. And then we have revenues for fire service and hydrant rentals. We kept that the same at 40. Water inspection fees, we kept that the same at 1,500. Backflow inspections, 20,000. Backflow permit is 2,000. Disconnect fee, 150. We're working with customers a lot more closely now, trying to get those, even though it's, unfavorable for the city to not have as much disconnect fee. It's better for our citizens. Penalties, 110,000. Installation charges, 65. Miscellaneous water charges, about 18. Going into the sewer, with the increase would bring our sewer, the 9% increase would bring our sewer up about $800,000. So that's a big increase there. Sewer inspection fees, $1,000. Penalties, $135,000. Revenues from scrap $1,500, and interest earnings about $5,000. We possibly could see some more interest earnings on that because of when we deposit the bond issue money, we will see a big increase in, not big increase, but we'll see some increase in interest earnings there. And then, of course, we have our tap fees, estimating about $50,000 for water, $85,000 for sewer, and about $15,000 for special assessments. That will bring our total revenue for the water sewer fund to $11,146,000. That's an increase of approximately $1 million over prior year. Now, I've already given you the expenditures on this page. This is a summary of them. The expenditures are $9.3 million. So you'll see we'll be able to put approximately $1.7 million back into our reserve fund. This will help with future year projects and to generally build up our, I'll go ahead and talk about our cash balance. If at the end of 2013-14, we should have approximately $6.2 million. We're forecasting to end up this year at approximately 4.4. That's including spending approximately $500,000 on projects other than the bond projects. These are just, I kind of estimated maybe some projects, unexpected projects. When you have to add back depreciation, and you have to subtract out our principal payments, and subtract out the Walden Road, the balance that's left on the Walden Road. So that will give us an approximate cash balance of $6.1 million. Now, starting with our water plant, the allocation expense to the from the water treatment plant will go up approximately $25,000. That's just an increase from because of wages increasing, because we're allocating the city admin department, that increased that allocation. If you'll notice, electricity, that is now in the Severn Trent contract, so we took the electricity down to $40,000 from a $380,000 budget. Water, we do continue to take care of the water and phones. The water is approximately $5,000. Phones are $5,000. Audit services $5,000. Other professional services increased to 1.7. That's because of the new Severn Trent contract. Repair and maintenance service, approximately $75,000. Repair and maintenance on the building, approximately $10,000. The water storage maintenance, approximately $29,000. $500 for operating supplies and chemicals. This is another savings that the water treatment that Severn Trent proposed to us to help reduce chemicals. I put in $100,000 just in case they go over their contracted amount, because just as I did in electricity, I put a little bit in there because if they go over in the contract, then we're still liable for the amount overage. We have $55,000 in for insurance, $460,000 in for depreciation, and don't see any other items in the water treatment plant. Any questions about the water treatment plant? That reduces our budget. Prior year budget was $2.9 million. Of course, we had some $260-something thousand in improvements there. So that will reduce our budget by approximately $400,000. But it's really only about $138 by the time you take out that $262 that we put in there for projects, the building repair. Okay. Moving on to the water maintenance department. The first few lines are our wages and benefits and costs associated with that. Gary, did you have anything you wanted to speak of in this area?
No, we're filling one of the positions. We had one vacant. Bruce and I were confused a little bit, but I would like to carry one vacant position over to next year. Really don't. With the meter change out possibly and other things coming up, we may need another position. I'd hate to see it eliminated and then be, you know, looking. It's just a labor position, but other than that,
But these are ones that you've not filled.
right.
Right.
So
I'm filling one of them probably this week in water. I'm filling one in sewer. We'll get to that one too. But then we had an extra vacant position in water. So we had two vacant.
That's what I'm saying,
Right,
that
yeah.
you already had these. This
We
is
already had
nobody
these.
new.
No,
This is,
absolutely nobody knew. I just didn't want to cut them out and
Right.
eliminate them. I tried to come up with our savings in the departments other than that position. I just want to hang on to it for
yeah,
this
I
year.
just want to make sure everybody understood
Yeah,
that
no
those
new
were not
positions.
new.
No.
Those were just haven't been filled.
Haven't been filled.
Moving on down, employee education and training, we have reduced that budget from $36,000 to $5,000. Increased postage by $50, increased printing by $100, increased subscriptions by $100, membership registration fees we increased by $500. Electricity we kept the same at $50,000, reduced water to $600, kept the gas the same. Increased telephones by $1,000 to $14,000, kept the audit services the same. Engineering, we reduced $10,000 to $70,000. Other professional services increased a little bit to $7,000. Repair and maintenance service, reduced that by $5,000 to $20,000. Repair and maintenance building, we reduced that by $500 to $2,000. Fleet for water, we increased that to $15,000. That's a $1,000 increase. Travel, we increased that by $300. Office supplies and materials were kept the same at $2,400. Small items of equipment, we reduced by $1,000. Operating supplies, we reduced by $40,000. We added some food line item there of $500. Household and janitorial supplies is $500. Clothing and uniforms, $6,000. Repair and maintenance supplies, $500. Fuel, $25,000. Repair parts, this is a reimbursement that we generally see coming from the billing side, where we have customers that purchase items and we reimburse the water billing department because that's where the expenses come from. Computer maintenance, that's our Microsoft licensing, $54.30, kept that the same. Fire hydrant repair, he reduced that to $15,000. Insurance was staying the same at $47,000. Machinery and equipment rental increasing to $1,500. Depreciation, $515,000. Bank service charges, approximately $16,000. Other improvements, that's the work order system, not the PO system as I've got labeled here. And then the only capital item that he has requested is a water valve exerciser and trailer at $65,000.
This will allow us to go to every water valve in the city. It exercises it, opens it, closes it, the proper torque, the proper everything. It has GPS on the trailer that we can then put it on our maps along with this other system, and we'll know where every valve in the city is.
Overall, it's about $130,000.
$125,396.58.
Savings over prior year. Have any questions about water maintenance? If not, we'll move along to sewer. We have not added any staff to the sewer department. I think we have 2 vacancies currently that are being filled. In employee education and training, we've increased that budget to $2,500. That's a $500 increase. Postage, we increased by 100. Printing, we kept the same. Subscriptions and license is the same as the prior year, 350. Membership registration fees are the same at 4,500. Electricity is 115,000. Water will be 500. Sewer, this is our metro sewer contract, increasing that, I think about a couple of percent to 1.2 million, 85,000. Gas, $1,500. Phones, we increased that to 18,000 from 15. Audit service, 5,000. That's the same. Engineering services, 60,000. Other professional services, we reduced that to 9,000. Repair and maintenance, we reduced that by 30,000. Repair and maintenance motor vehicle, we left in the 5,000. That's mainly for camera truck repair. Repair and maintenance building, we would decrease that by 2,500 to $2,500. Fleet for sewer is 14,000. Travel is 500. Office supplies is 2,400. Small items equipment 2,500. Operating supplies 240,000. Chemicals 50,000. That's our odor control. $500 for food. $1,000 for janitorial supplies. $5,000 for clothing. $25,000 for fuel. $5,430 for a Microsoft license. $50,000 for insurance. $2,500 for equipment rental. $742,000 for depreciation. $7,000 for a PO system. $96,000 you'll see under other machinery equipment. That will cover the radio telemetry SCADA at $20,000, a dump truck for $40,000, and a trailered Jetta for $36,000. And then our last item is a truck, a 3/4 ton truck at $30,000. Do we have any questions? For the sewer department? If not, we'll move on to the water billing department. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we did reduce this department by a staff of 1. We now have a water billing supervisor that is at a salaried position. We do have $95,000 in allocations back to the stormwater department for services that the water billing provides. Moving on down to expenses, we have $400 for postage. Most of our postage is handled through the Arista, which is under other professional services. Printing and stationery, we left the same at $500. Cell phones and telephone services, $700. Audit services, $5,400. Other professional services, which is Arista, our bill printing service and mailing, is $75,000. $10,000 for repair and maintenance service. $8,000 for fleet or vehicle repairs. $1,000 for collection fees. I did increase that because Fox is working a lot more of our accounts, and with that we have to pay a percentage, and so I increased that to $1,000. Office supplies and material, we kept the same at $4,500. Small items of equipment, we increased by $1,000 to $2,000. Operating supplies, we kept the same at $2,000. Clothing, $2,250. Fuel, we kept the same at $22,000. Computer equipment, which is a Microsoft license, is $5,430. Insurance, $47,500. Depreciation, $10,000. That leaves a total budget for the water, the billing department for $674,000. Do we have Have any questions on the water billing? If not, we can move on down to the water non-recurring. This is our debt service, bank service charges, and bad debt expense. We have to put in so much money a year for bond sale amortization. That's at $17,000. Our interest on bonded debt this year, you see that's an increase to $766,000. That's because of the new bond that we are issuing. $1,500 for bank service charges and $125,000 for bad debt. If there's not any questions, I'd like to go to a recap page that you should have in your packet there. I think it's page 30. This gives us an overall picture of our water sewer department. We have operating revenues at $10,996,000. We have total expenses for all departments at $9.3 thousand, and then we have to add back in our tap fee revenue. That gives us a net result of a surplus of $1.7 million. Any questions? Water sewer fund. I know y'all gotta have some questions. You're too quiet.
Okay, that's with the 6 and 9%.
Yes.
Will it absolutely kill us if we went 3 and 6 again?
I mean, no, it's not. I can rework the numbers and see. Let's see if I can do that right quick.
I mean, I know, you know, we've got the money. We're going to start on a project, which is hopefully going to recoup, you know, the water that we're losing on the new meters. I know that's not in the next immediate months, but we're looking at that. And then we're also looking at our sewer. Yes, and get what we're paying Metro down. Yeah. Of course, I know that's not going to be. That's going to take us, you know, some time to get done.
The big concern is going to be future years.
I know.
When we're making those bond payments,
That's true.
and that's where it's going to hit us the most.
Yeah.
And we've got to keep that funds up now. I mean, we've got to do that.
If we change it to 3 and 6, we'll see a surplus of 1.5 million instead of the 1.78. So we lose about $287,000.
Do you have the new bond payment in this budget?
I have the estimate, which is just, there's not much difference. I think he gave me a I can't remember exactly, 3.08, and I think the bond came in at 3.05, so these are estimated numbers, but they're very, very close.
Yeah. Just figuring.
Pardon?
I was just figuring in my head. Okay.
If you decide to do that,
I was just asking, yeah.
it will take an ordinance
Yes.
to amend the municipal code, because that automatic increase is built into that
Yeah.
section. So just keep that in mind. We can do that at the same time we approve the budget, obviously, and have it take effect at the same time, that being July 1st. So if that's a route this board wants to take, we'll have to do it at the same time we adopt the budget.
And Metro usually hits us with the uppage around September.
Yeah, and we don't know what that increase is going to be, yeah.
And it's about September usually when we get that letter.
It's December the 1st is when it
goes into effect December 1st.
So it's usually
right.
around August, September when we get it. Okay, I was just thinking out loud. Okay.
That wraps up. We have went through every single department, every single fund. We have another budget workshop scheduled for next Thursday. It's up to the board what we want to do there. If we want to let me reprint the final set and come back and just look at.
And I think we'll have some changes between now and then. I think most of them will be minor. I do have a couple ideas percolating up here, but, you know.
But that is, at the conclusion, once again, we're in a surplus, so we are balanced. So everybody has done, again, an outstanding job with your budgets. Thank y'all very much, very much. It's really nice coming in and not having to cut $1 and $2 million and people getting what they need and the services are being rendered, and it's awesome.
When is the next meeting?
Next Thursday, the
Next
25th,
Thursday.
at 1 o'clock.
Site down at 1
What-
o'clock.
Here's my question. Last week I brought up the fire. When do we start discussing that? Is that in this meeting?
We have not done anything to this point.
I mean, when do we start? Because we got to start looking at that.
Well,
Do we
I
do
still
that?
have not contacted MTS, not had the opportunity since last Thursday. But, you know, if we want to look at doing a study, we can see how long it will take them to try and do that study. Other than that, I think it would involve somebody going talking to the fire department and see what they're willing to do, whether that's the mayor and myself or whoever. You know, but we need some sort of direction from this board as far as.
That's what I'm asking. Do we do that in a meeting? Do we do that in this budget? I mean, how?
Well, at this point, it's
what's the
just an
step?
informal
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
issue. It's nothing that's been directed by the board, so everything would be informal at this point. You know, but we'll do whatever this board desires.
Well, that's what he's asking.
That's what I'm asking.
Do we
it
have to have a vote to go to?
to figure out what we're going to do?
Yeah.
You know, what's my next step? here?
We can contact MTS and see what they can do, and then bring that to the council meeting and let the board vote on that. As far as the decision whether or not to start the process of the buyout, that is obviously a board decision.
Well, yeah, but what I'm at, I mean, do I need to bring it up in the workshop in the next meeting? Do we need to figure out which way we want to go?
And talk.
I mean,
It might
can you
be
just
a-
automatically go talk? Do we have to vote on that? I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
getting at.
Everything is informal at this point until we're directed by the board officially to try and work out some sort of negotiation or something like that. You know, if the board wants us to negotiate the contract, I think that ought to be a vote.
My thing is we need to start looking now, because like I said, next year.
Well, it's an 18-month process on a buyout, so.
So we need to do something so that next year we can at least afford, because we won't have a balanced budget then. It won't happen. So I guess then.
And it's a pretty interesting numbers. The city doing it versus the contract.
I mean, I've been coming up with numbers and crunching them, and I know I'm not exactly right. I got to meet with Phyllis and try to get some other numbers in there, but
I think the big deal would be getting it back versus, I mean, I think once we get it, I believe you probably could stay close to what they're doing or even less, right? But
I've come up with numbers to put all 36 men on now and move forward.
I mean, there could be some initial savings, but of course, you know, adding more men and if we build a new fire station one, obviously there's going to be expenses there. There's going to be capital improvements there that we'll have to to plan for, so. Either way, it's not cheap.
I'm just looking at moving forward, next year, because I'm not gonna sit up here knowing we needed to do something a year ahead of time,
Right.
working it out, and we're gonna sit up here and tell everybody to cut their budget more than 5% next year to cover
And
that.
others going 6%.
Knowing there's no way,
Yeah.
Right.
and just put it off for a year, I'm not gonna sit up here and do that. So we've gotta move forward. If we need to put it on the meeting for the workshop to discuss it, and then have a vote on what we need y'all to do, I mean,
Let
that's
me
what I wanna
talk
do.
let me talk to Evan about it, and let me talk to the fire consultant at MTS.
Because I mean, whether it be negotiating with him or starting our way, whatever, I want to get it moving. Because we can't just sit on it for a year.
Right. Okay.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Another good job, guys. Thank y'all very much. Very, very much. I call this budget hearing closed.